Not that long ago, a power outage in the United States felt like a rare emergency. Now, for millions of Americans, it's just another Tuesday. From rolling blackouts in California to winter grid failures in Texas and storm-related outages all along the East Coast, we're now preparing for power cuts as if they're a normal part of life. In a country that prides itself on technological leadership and economic strength, this raises a really troubling question. Why is reliable electricity no longer a guarantee? What's happening isn't a coincidence, and it's not just bad luck or extreme weather. It's the result of deep, structural problems that have been quietly building for decades. Before we break it all down, if you want clear, simple explanations of the biggest issues affecting everyday American life and what can actually be done about them, make sure to subscribe to this channel. We post new videos just like this one all the time. So let's start with what we're all feeling, the growing normalization of blackouts. Power outages are increasing in both how often they happen and how long they last. What used to be a flicker of a few minutes now stretches into hours or even days. Utilities are now warning customers to expect planned shutoffs during heat waves or wildfire seasons, and it's almost expected that a big storm will knock out power for an entire region. This isn't just an inconvenience, it's changing how we live. Families are now buying generators, battery backups, and emergency supplies not as rare precautions, but as necessities. Think about that for a second. The fact that so many of us feel we need our own personal power grid is a huge signal that the public one is under serious strain. When you're stocking up on candles and bottled water like your grandparents did, you have to wonder what's going on. At the very center of this crisis is our aging power grid. This is the number one reason outages are becoming so common. Much of our electrical infrastructure, the poles, the wires, the transformers, was built decades ago. It was designed for a smaller population and a far lower demand for electricity. These systems were never meant to support our modern lives, millions of people working from home, data-heavy technology, a growing fleet of electric vehicles, and climate-controlled homes running 24/7. As all this equipment gets older, it just breaks down more often. It's like driving a classic car every single day on a cross-country road trip. Eventually, something's going to give. A single damaged transformer or an overloaded line can trigger a chain reaction, creating cascading outages that affect millions of people at once. The grid is a fragile, interconnected web, and right now, many of its threads are worn thin. And then there's the stress test that never ends: extreme weather. Climate change has turned our power grid into a constant battlefield. Record-breaking heat waves push electricity demand to its absolute limit as everyone cranks up their air conditioning. Brutal winter storms freeze equipment that was never designed for those kinds of temperatures, especially in southern states. And of course, hurricanes, floods, and wildfires are physically destroying power lines and substations. These events are no longer once in a lifetime, they're happening more often, they're lasting longer, and they're costing more and more to fix. Each disaster exposes the exact same weakness. Our grid was built for a climate that no longer exists. It's not prepared for today's reality, let alone what's coming next. Another major issue is something you might not think about: how the U.S. power system is organized. You might assume there's one big, unified national grid, but that's not the case. The country actually operates on multiple regional grids that often do and have strong connections or coordination with each other. This fragmentation is a huge problem. It limits our flexibility during emergencies. When one region is facing a massive power shortage, say, during a heat wave in the Southwest, it can always borrow power from neighboring regions that might have a surplus. The connections just aren't there or aren't strong enough. So, in those critical moments, electricity can't be rerouted to where it's needed most. This turns what could be a manageable, localized problem into a massive, large-scale outage. Of course, a lot of this comes down to money and regulations. Utilities operate within very complex systems that prioritize keeping costs down for consumers in the short term. Big, expensive, long-term modernization projects require massive funding and years of planning. But these projects often get delayed due to political pressure, regulatory hurdles, or fights over who will pay for the upgrades. So instead of being proactive and upgrading the system before it breaks, many utilities are stuck in a cycle of reactive repairs. They patch things up after they fail. This approach keeps the lights on temporarily, but it makes future failures more likely. It's like putting a band-aid on a deep wound over and over again without ever getting the stitches it really needs. This guarantees that outages will keep happening. So, what does this all mean for you and me, for ordinary Americans? A power outage is so much more than just an inconvenience. In the summer, homes lose air conditioning during dangerous heat. In the winter, they lose heat during freezing cold. All the food in your refrigerator spoils. Critical medical devices, like oxygen machines, stop working. Remote work and online schooling grind to a complete halt. For small businesses, it means lost revenue. For hourly workers, it means lost wages. For entire communities, it means real safety risks when traffic lights and street lights go out. Over time, these repeated failures erode our trust in the public systems we depend on every single day for our survival and well-being. So, why is this problem so hard to fix quickly? Well, fixing the grid isn't as simple as just replacing a few power lines. It requires nationwide coordination, trillions of dollars in investment, updated regulations, and years of construction. These are huge, complex projects that don't produce immediate, flashy political wins, which makes them very easy for politicians to postpone. As a result, the system remains stuck in this cycle of delay, emergency response, and rising costs, while blackouts just become more and more normal. But a more reliable future is possible. It's not a fantasy. Investing in modern infrastructure, like smart grids that can automatically reroute power and detect problems, would make a huge difference. Better energy storage, like large-scale batteries, could save up excess power for when we need it most. And building stronger connections between our regional grids would dramatically reduce outages. Preparing the grid for extreme weather instead of just reacting to it could prevent many failures before they ever happen. This means winterizing equipment, burying power lines, and building stronger infrastructure. Ultimately, it requires a shift in mindset. We need to treat electricity as essential national infrastructure, just like our highways and bridges, not just another utility service. This would shift priorities toward long-term reliability instead of short-term fixes. So here's the bottom line. Power outages are becoming normal in the United States not because we're using too much electricity, but because the system that delivers it is outdated, overstressed, and completely unprepared for the challenges of the 21st century. Every single blackout is a warning sign, a reminder of these deep structural issues that we can no longer afford to ignore. The real question isn't whether the outages will continue, they will. The real question is whether meaningful action will be taken before we all just accept living in the dark as the new normal. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this explanation helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe for more videos breaking down the big issues. See you next time.